shocking secrets about Ragnar Lothbrok that will haunt you at midnight, history you never knew. In the flickering shadows of a stormy night, one name echoes through the halls of time, sending chills down the spines of the bravest souls: Ragnar Lothbrok. Picture it, a warlord with eyes like molten steel, rumored to have survived impossible battles, to have stared death in the face and laughed. But what lies behind the legend? Stories whisper of a cursed fate, a prophecy that can bind even the strongest, one that promises doom for anyone who dares dig too deep. The wind howls outside, making you jump as if the very spirits of history are trying to escape the grave, desperate to tell their stories. Brushed by dark legends, Ragnar's life was a tapestry woven from threads of blood and betrayal. They say his rise from a mere farmer to a legendary warrior was fueled by an unholy pact with the gods, drawing power from blood sacrifices made in moonlit rituals. Can you feel the cold grip of fear? As you read about these secrets, your heart races, tight in your chest, wondering if you should even know them. With each revelation, pressure builds, like the weight of an unseen hand pressing against your mind. Have you heard the tale of his infamous dragon ship? Built not just for conquest but rumored to hide darker secrets within its wooden frame, treasures of the lost and the damned. The very wood cried out in anguish as souls departed, leaving a wake of terror that could silence the fiercest of tides. The whispers in taverns speak of sailors who hopped aboard and never returned, their bodies swallowed by the sea, leaving only echoes in the dark. Why doesn't anyone talk about these chilling truths? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ragnar's legacy, riddled with dark promises of vengeance, can't simply be brushed aside. The clock ticks ominously as you wonder, what truly happens when one crosses the line between history and myth? As the howling wind begins to die down, a lone question lingers in the air, cut cleanly by the crash of thunder. Are you ready to uncover the other chilling mysteries that only the brave dare to confront? The storm raged on, throwing rain against the windows like desperate hands begging for entry. In the heart of the tempest, shadows twisted, blending with the fear that clung to the air. The only steady pulse in that chaos was a single candle flickering on the table, casting ghostly shapes that danced in the dark, a stark reminder of the secrets yet to be unveiled. But Ragnar Lothbrok's story does not end with whispers of sacrifice and shipwrecks. No, there's more beneath the surface, dark corners of his myth that few survive to tell. The deeper you dig, the more gnarly the roots of this tale become, like ancient trees grasping for the sky while hiding their true nature underground. Are you brave enough to follow this twisted path? From the depths of a forgotten burial mound, they say that ancient artifacts were unearthed, shining relics cursed by the gods themselves. Tools that Ragnar once wielded, stained by the blood of enemies, echo with the fury of battles long past. Rumor has it those relics were not meant for mere men but bound to a fate intertwined with Ragnar's own. As night cloaked the world in uncertainty, an old bard's tale crept into the minds of all who listened. He spoke of a forgotten village where those who ventured too close to Ragnar's tomb went mad. Their eyes, he whispered, would roll back in their heads, and they'd chant his name until their throats ran dry. The audience shivered, and you could feel an electric charge in the air, the realization that history has a way of claiming its debt. Tracking down the whispers, one could find the village still standing, though nearly forgotten. Huddled together in the mist, homes made of thatch hung precariously as if afraid to yield to the haunting winds. The elders warned their children never to stray too far, lest they awaken Ragnar's restless spirit. But the allure of discovery ignited an ember of bravery in the hearts of a few, and the foolish set out to unravel the mystery. As you picture their journey, can you hear the branches snapping underfoot, feel the damp earth squelching beneath their boots? Driven by curiosity, they stumbled upon Ragnar's grave, overgrown and half-formed, like a mouth expecting to swallow the unwary. Upon discovering the solid stone, they began to chant a daring incantation, hoping to awaken the slumbering warlord and demand the truth behind his legacy, but darkness doesn't always give you answers it takes. The air thickened, charged with an unspeakable dread as shadows deepened around them. Panic began to ripple through the group as whispers filled the silence, words curling around their minds like smoke in a room. They cried out into the night, desperate for release, for their spirits to flee. What happened next? The very ground beneath them shook, a low rumble that felt like a bell tolling in the distance, a parting of the veil between their world and the abyss. A dark figure, cloaked in fog and fury, emerged from the shadows, eyes blazing with the fierceness of ancient wrath. As the lightning illuminated the scene in brilliant flashes, their hearts raced, and time tilted on its axis. Was this the will of the gods, or merely a trick of fate? Ragnar was watching. And what awaited them was beyond comprehension. Now, clutching your breath, hold on tightly. The deeper you go, the more you stand to lose. What fate awaits those who dare to challenge the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok? What secrets lie coiled in the dark, waiting to be unleashed? The ground shuddered violently, tossing the group like leaves in a hurricane. Eyes widened, breath catching in throats tight with fear. They struggled to keep their footing as the dark figure loomed closer, rising up from the shadows as if the very darkness had birthed it. The air became electric, crackling with ancient energy, wrapping around them like a vice. The candle flickered wildly, the glow battling the encroaching darkness. With each heartbeat, the figure sharpened into focus. There he was, Ragnar Lothbrok, his face twisted in wrath, eyes burning with a fiery intensity that pierced the shroud of night like arrows. The air turned icy around them, as his presence, both grave and awe-inspiring, held them in a trance. Fools! Ragnar's voice rang out, deep and reverberating, sending chills across their skin. You dare disturb my rest? Speak your purpose, or be swallowed by the shadow you awaken. We come seeking truth. One of the braver souls finally managed to stammer, his hands trembling as he held them up in a gesture of peace. Please. We want to know your legacy. Laughter pealed from Ragnar, harsh and mocking, echoing through the trees like a death knell. You wish to know my legacy? My truth? Let me show you. With a sweeping gesture, the earth groaned as if in protest. The ground cracked and opened, revealing a nightmarish landscape beneath a vivid tableau of Ragnar's past, vivid and horrific. Ghostly images flared to life, ships bathed in blood, warriors fighting fiercely, their screams mingling with the roar of the sea. Ragnar, alive in those moments, sword raised, creating waves of chaos that thrashed against the shores of history. The group stumbled back in horror, their minds racing to comprehend the horrors laid bare before them. One by one, they felt the weight of the images pressing down, snaring them in a web of despair. This was not merely a recollection, it was a curse, a history seeping into their very souls. Do you now understand? Ragnar's voice cut through their shock, low and menacing. My legacy is not a treasure to be claimed. It is a burden, a darkness that seeps into your bones. This madness is what you sought, is it not? You crave the power of the past, yet it will only unravel you. Panic swelled in them, threatening to consume their minds. They tried to break free from the visions, but the shadows wrapped tighter, squeezing the breath from their lungs. The air grew heavier, choking their screams before they could leave their lips. As Ragnar's specter drew nearer, a sudden spark of rebellion flared in one, a girl with fierce spirit despite the fear swirling in her gut. We're not here to claim anything, Ragnar. We just want to understand. The figure paused, intrigued by her defiance. Understand? Then let me show you the cost. The weight of knowledge is heavy, and those who seek it must be prepared to pay. She was drawn forward, pulled by an unseen force to the edge of the chasm. As her feet hovered above the abyss, she realized it was not just knowledge she sought, but a reckoning, a chance to confront the darkness that lay both in Ragnar and within themselves. What is your sacrifice? He demanded, the silence deafening around them. Her heart hammered. With the storm raging above and the cursed visions below, she was about to exchange everything she knew for what lay ahead. But would they be able to bear the truth? The lightning flashed again, illuminating Ragnar's haunting eyes. Make your choice, brave one. But remember, when you dance with shadows, they always dance back. The group gasped collectively, as the ground trembled once more, signaling that time was running out. Would it be their dark truths lurking in dreamlike shadows, or a glimmer of revelation that could awaken them from this nightmare? As fear hung thick in the air, one haunting thought echoed throughout: who will pay the price to awaken the spirits still restless in the night? The ground cracked again, fissures spreading like a spider's web around their feet, each tremor a countdown. The girl felt the force of the darkness drawing her closer to the edge, her pulse racing. She could hear her friends whispering, their breaths hitching in trepidation. Please. We don't want to lose her. Someone cried out, a mixture of desperation and fear warping their voice. But the girl stood trembling at the precipice, eyes locked on Ragnar. I'll pay the price, she shouted, her voice steady though her heart drummed furiously as if demanding her to flee. Just tell me what it is. Ragnar's mouth curved into a wicked smile. Only fools barter with shadows, child. But if it's truth you seek, you must first confront your lies. He reached out, and with a swift motion, the crack in the ground wide below her began to churn, revealing a vortex swirling with images of betrayal, despair, and haunting memories. She glanced back at her friends, their faces pale, stricken with a mix of hope and horror. I can do this, she assured them, though doubt gnawed at her insides. We'll all understand together. With a nod, Ragnar beckoned her further into the darkness. She stepped forward, feeling a jolt of cold shoot through her veins as the abyss pulled her down. Instinctively, she reached for the grip of the earth, but she felt something deeper, something pulling her memory, pulling her past into focus. Visions cascaded through her mind, moments of betrayal she had tried to bury, choices that had torn her family apart, and screams she wished she could unhear. Each image was like a sharp blade, slicing through the fog of nostalgia, leaving only stark truth in their wake. Is this the sacrifice? She whispered, her voice shaky. Tears stung her eyes as realization crashed over her. Each step she took reckoned not just with Ragnar's legacy, but her own. The ghosts of her own choices battled in her heart, demanding recognition. I never wanted it to end like this. Then embrace it, or be consumed, Ragnar's booming voice filled her ears. The weight of her past enveloped her. You may find that facing your own shadows is the hardest battle of all. Only then can you dance with the truth. The ground lurched again, and she felt herself slipping. A scream broke from her lips, echoed by her friends in frantic unison. No. Don't go. But the darkness tightened around her, weaving in and out of the visions that sought to chains her down. Betrayed, she murmured, as she finally understood the deepest betrayal had always come from within, the lies she told herself shaping her destiny. With a sudden surge of strength, she clawed at the darkness, fighting to reclaim her voice. I am not just a product of this legacy. She shouted defiantly. I will break free. The shadows lunged at her, but she pressed on. And my friends, they are my strength. I will not face this alone. Light burst forth from her heart, radiating against the encroaching darkness. Ragnar's laughter took a new tone, one tinged with admiration. Brave yet foolish. Will your rebellion be enough? Suddenly, the air crackled again, like 1,000 lightning strikes converging into one. The lurking spirits of Ragnar's past stirred as if awakened by her courage, swirling around the group in chaotic silence. What happens now? Her voice trembled, facing Ragnar, only to see the shadow of doubt flicker in his unyielding gaze. Now we shall connect our fates, child. If you think you can stand against the past, be prepared. There is always a cost. As the world continued to shudder beneath them, a sudden flash of light illuminated the eerie landscape, revealing figures that had been trapped in the shadows: warriors, women, and children who bore the weight of Ragnar's legacy. An unsettling thought gripped her gut: if she unleashed Ragnar's power from its chains, would it bring freedom, or worse, more darkness? A chilling whisper echoed, wrapping around her like tendrils of smoke, urging her to make a choice. What will weigh heavier, the sacrifice of the truth or the weight of oppression? The intensity thickened, and just as she began to form her answer, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, thrusting them all into a swirling chaos of fate. In that moment of uncertainty, she realized affection was a double-edged sword. Could love truly fracture the chains of legacy, or would it meld them together even tighter? The storm outside howled with renewed vengeance. The abyss roared, awaiting her choice, to confront the shadows or risk losing everything to the depths of oblivion, caught in the restless night. A deafening silence enveloped them, stretching the moment into eternity. The screams faded, replaced by the low hum of energy vibrating through the earth. She felt the pulse of her friends behind her, an anchoring reminder that she wasn't alone. It became clear to her that Ragnar thrived on their fears, using them to stoke the fires of chaos surrounding them. Embrace the truth. His voice boomed again, echoing like thunder in her ears. But know this, the truth can fracture as easily as it can heal. Her gaze shifted back to the swirling figures in the shadows. Were they real? Was Ragnar conjuring phantoms from her deepest regrets, or were they trapped spirits, seeking liberation from a dark legacy? Panic clawed at her throat. What if those shadows were pieces of her own past? What if she couldn't save them? Stay close. She shouted, desperation tinging her voice as she curled her fingers around their hands, squeezing tightly. Each friend took a breath, steadying themselves against the weight of fear pressing down. I'm scared, one friend whispered, their voice barely audible, trembling like leaves in a storm. What if we can't save you? Don't think like that, she said, fighting against the rising tide of despair. We're stronger together. We have to face this. With those words, a surge of energy radiated from her heart again, drawing energy from her friends, glowing brightly against the abyss. As they held on to each other, the light expanded, unraveling the depths of darkness that surrounded them. Ah! Such spirit! Ragnar sneered, but there was an edge of respect, perhaps even fear in his tone. I wonder if the truth will indeed set you free or bind you tighter. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, unearthing the figures trapped within. A woman, her face streaked with sorrow, stepped forward. You must confront him, she cried, her voice a mournful whisper threaded with urgency. Only through him can you find your way back. But tread carefully, for his power is deceptive. What do you mean? She asked, her heart racing. Every choice, every sacrifice leads you deeper into the darkness. You'll face the ultimate intersection of love and betrayal the moment you unleash Ragnar's truth, the woman warned, her eyes filled with both warning and longing. You may free us, or you may draw all of us into the shadows forever. Then I choose to confront it, she shouted, her voice echoing through the wind, defiance firing through her veins. I will find the truth, and I will break this cycle. Very well, Ragnar's laughter rolled like thunder. But to try is to invite calamity. The shadows are never truly gone. Open your heart to confront what binds you. The ground quaked violently underneath them, and she stumbled but held her ground. The shadows wrapped around her, tightening like chains, dragging forth her deepest regrets. The voices of her past reverberated in her mind, echoes of love lost, friendships betrayed, promises broken. Memories flashed before her eyes, stabbing at her like daggers. Look! This is who you really are, Ragnar bellowed, gesturing to the vortex swirling at her feet. She saw her own reflection twisted and tortured, surrounded by a storm of darkness. No! She screamed, clawing at the air, attempting to break the spell he cast over her. She couldn't let herself drown in this suffocating despair. I am more than this. I can rise above. With a fierce roar, she pushed against the weight of her past, feeling a tremor of hope ignite within. Suddenly, a rush of light broke through. It was her friends, standing firm, their faces glowing with encouragement. In that moment, she realized they had shared in her pain, her flaws. They held the truth of her heart. When they united, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in resistance. What will you decide now, child? Ragnar growled, the tension thickening. Will you embrace the storm, or allow it to consume you entirely? As the shadows writhed and twisted, she looked into her friend's eyes. Their unwavering support ignited a spark within her. I choose to face the storm, she declared boldly, her voice echoing with clarity, but a sudden flash illuminated the horizon beyond the abyss, and a new figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar face, both a comfort and a challenge. Are you ready for what comes next? The figure's voice was haunting, a blend of love and pain, leaving her breathless as dread washed over her, and in that moment, she realized this storm was only the beginning. The unknown figure stepped into the light, the aura shimmering around them like a ghostly whisper. It was a face she recognized but had almost forgotten her brother, lingering somewhere between life and the shadows. The sight of him sent a jolt through her, a mix of anger and grief flooding her senses. Why? She gasped, caught between joy and despair. Why are you here? Because I'm part of this, he replied, his voice heavy with truths unspoken. You must untangle what we've buried, or none of us will be free. Ragnar's laughter echoed, mocking the raw emotion swirling in the air. See how it comes back to those you hold dear. Your bond is a chain, sister. Will you break it or reinforce it? Her heart raced as memories flooded her mind, laughter shared at the dinner table, late-night talks on the porch, the last hug before they were torn apart. The thought of losing him again crushed her. I won't let him take you from me. She shouted, bracing herself against the choking darkness. The shadows stirred around them, alive and restless. Ragnar feeds on the conflict, her brother warned, stepping slightly closer, though the chasm between them felt insurmountable. He will twist your choices, blur the lines of right and wrong. Then I'll choose to save you. Her voice trembled with determination, but the shadows surged, hungry to snatch away her resolve. They clawed at her, pulling her deeper into despair, reminding her of every mistake, every moment of weakness. With each flicker of doubt, Ragnar's form loomed larger, the embodiment of every fear she had ever faced. Freedom comes at a price, Ragnar taunted, eyes glinting like shards of ice. What will you sacrifice? Your love. Your sanity. Your very soul. Stop. She screamed, pushing against his words. She focused on the warm light radiating from her friends, on their hands gripping hers like lifelines. You don't get to dictate my choices. As she fought against the tide, her brother's voice pierced through the darkness again. Remember our childhood, the tales we shared? Do you trust in the bond we had? She hesitated, her breath hitching in her throat. The love they had was pure, but if she called upon it now, would it help them or doom them? Yes. She cried, a rush of adrenaline surging through her as she channeled memories of joy, laughter, and resilience. I trust in us. The love we had, it can't be twisted by him. A light burst forth from their collective hearts, a radiant shield against the encroaching shadows. Together, they stood firm, roots planted deeply in their shared history. Ragnar's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. You think you can withstand the storm? The truth is like fire, it can cleanse or consume. Then let it burn. She yelled defiantly, as the light expanded further, encasing them all in a protective cocoon. But as the shadows recoiled, a crack echoed through the silence, a fracture between realms. I will drag you down. Ragnar's bellow pierced through the crack, his form distorting into something monstrous. You think you've won? This isn't over. And with that, the ground beneath them convulsed. The cocoon began to waver, cracks appearing as the energy surged wildly. Stay together. She shouted, panic rising as they fought to hold their ground. The familiar face of her brother flickered like a candle in the wind, the shadows straining to tear them apart. As the fissures widened, she realized, the truth had awakened a force far more dangerous than they'd ever known. What if we can't hold it? One friend whispered, fear creeping back into their voices. then, a new voice chimed in, clear and strong, slicing through the chaos. You have the power to choose. Just believe. And as she faced the unraveling storm of darkness, she gasped, for the familiar face now stood not just as her brother, but as a guide, a beacon of what could still be. But in that illuminating moment, shadows began to swirl around them again. Are you truly ready to confront your past? Ragnar's voice boomed, echoing their fears back at them. The truth of her journey was only unfolding, threatening to drown them all. What would it take to harness the chaos and rise from the ashes? A decision loomed on the horizon, dark as the shadows that closed in, hungry for one last desperate choice. The ground trembled beneath their feet as if the very earth itself was aware of the impending doom. She felt the energy around them shift, a palpable tension that wrapped around her like a vice. With each shaky breath, the shadows reached greedily, whispering doubts that coursed through her mind like poison. The familiar warmth of her brother's presence flickered tenuously against this gathering storm. Hold on. She cried again, her voice strained but unwavering. We can do this together. Yet, her words felt fragile, almost lost amidst Ragnar's looming presence. His laughter ricocheted off the walls of despair surrounding them, a cruel melody that sent chills down her spine. Together? How quaint, he jeered, and the shadows responded to him, swirling faster, filling the space with darkness that felt alive and mocking. Trust in our bond. Her brother urged, a desperate glint in his eyes. It's the only way to fight him. In that moment, she understood Ragnar wasn't just an enemy. He was a tempest, feeding on their fears and weaknesses. He thrived in conflict, drawing power from their desperation, their divisions. They had an enemy within their own hearts, the unwillingness to face the truths they had buried. Ancient memories crept up, fragile yet demanding. She felt them tugging at her consciousness, the day he vanished, the last words they hadn't exchanged, the lie that had ensnared them both. If she didn't confront those demons, Ragnar would remain the shadow cast over her life, anchored in their shared past. Ragnar! She shouted defiantly, growing stronger despite the howling void around them. What do you fear? The words tumbled from her lips, unexpected yet liberating. You're not as invincible as you pretend to be. Silence fell, thick and heavy. Even the shadows paused, as if holding its breath, drawn to the challenge. The darkness curled ominously, twisting at the edges of the light they had forged. Suddenly the shimmering barrier flickered, fractured. You think turning on me will save you? I made you. Every fear, every insecurity you owe me. No. She yelled, fueled by a newfound certainty. You don't own me. I am not your puppet, and neither is my brother. The light flickered again, this time brighter, spilling forth renewed strength and determination. Her friends squeezed her hands tighter, anchoring her with their shared resolve. The love amongst them washed against Ragnar's darkness like a wave, pulling the shadows back, inch by inch. Face the truth. She called out once more, voice rising above the fray. You are a product of pain, like the rest of us. But we can grow beyond that. We can find freedom. Ragnar sneered, the malevolence flashing across his features. Freedom is an illusion. Once you choose, there is no going back. But as her heart raced and her spirit burned fierce with belief, a sudden shift occurred. The protective cocoon around them pulsed with a brilliant light that began to encircle Ragnar himself. He staggered, confusion flickering through his icy demeanor. Enough! He roared, thrashing against the shimmering bands of power that tugged at him, struggling to break free of his own darkness. The very fear he wielded now turned against him, forcing his monstrous form to recoil. You will face what you've denied. She shouted with boldness that echoed through the space. Just when it seemed they were gaining ground, a shadow far thicker and deeper than any before surged forth, looming behind Ragnar, tangible and threatening. Its presence swallowed the light, dragging them back to the unforgiving depths of despair. No! She gasped. The feeling of dread wrapped around her like a shroud. What lay behind that darkness? Who or what had been awakened as a result of their struggle? With a sudden flash, she caught a glimpse of something visceral and monstrous, lurking in the shadows, a body, twisted and familiar, accompanied by piercing eyes that mirrored her own. Will you embrace the darkness within? The voice coiled from the depths, haunting and full of echoes. Will you face your true self? The darkness pulsed with a quickened heartbeat, pressing in on her from every side. The shadows whispered again, curling and weaving around her mind, lacing together her deepest fears. What is real? She breathed, panic rising sharply in her throat. It was the moment of truth, the reckoning she had sought, but she felt herself slipping. The question loomed larger than any shadow. What awaited her in the heart of that dread? It was time, she realized, to unveil the deepest secrets buried in the shadows. Would she dare to know what lurked within? A deafening silence enveloped the space, broken only by her own rapid heartbeat. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing down, suffocating her resolve. Each whisper felt like a claw gripping her throat, desperate to pull her into the void. A wave of nausea rolled through her, the darkness beckoning her to surrender. Cynthia, don't listen to it. Her brother's voice, distant but unwavering, broke through the din. His grip tightened on her hand, grounding her, but thoughts of their past flooded her mind, memories swirling like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. The laughter they once shared, the moment of betrayal she thought she had buried, each recollection taunted her, undermining her strength. What if he is right? She whispered, shaking with uncertainty. No. Her brother barked, his voice fierce. This is not who we are. You are stronger than he wants you to believe. Emboldened by his words, she took a deep breath, clearing the fog that clouded her thoughts. I am more than my fears. The declaration came out sharp and clear, slicing through the shadows like a knife. A flicker of light pulsed within her, a flicker that caught Ragnar's attention. The malevolence in his eyes twisted into something akin to rage. You dare challenge me? You are a reflection of all I've created. The darkness is your home. But she held on to the warmth of her brother's hand, letting it seep into her, steadying her. No. I reject you, Ragnar. I reject this twisted version of myself. The shadows around them seemed to pause, a moment of stillness stretching thin. Ragnar's face contorted in fury, his hands clawing at the light, desperate to snuff it out. You cannot escape the truth. It will consume you. With a sudden shudder, the dark figure behind him advanced, sneering back at her with eyes that mirrored her own, filled with pain and longing. It was her, a distorted reflection of everything she had tried to outpace. Will you surrender to me? It hissed, its voice echoing with wretched familiarity. Embrace the truth of who you are, flawed, weak, and broken. No. Cynthia screamed, shaking her head as if to cast off the very notion. She remembered her brother's words, he believed in her. I am not weak. I will not drown in the shadows. A crack of light burst from the protective barrier surrounding them, engulfing her and her brother in warmth. The monstrous figure writhed in rage, roaring as the light eroded its essence. The shriek echoed around them, mingling with Ragnar's frustrated growls. The darkness, albeit momentarily shaken, wasn't done. It pushed back, a relentless tide, and a familiar voice hissed from within the shadows, you will always be part of me. Her breath hitched, the tie was unbreakable. In that instant, Cynthia realized Ragnar was just a manifestation of her own insecurities, her guilt tattooed on her soul. Fists clenched, she steadied herself. She needed to disarm him the way she was now disarming herself. Ragnar, you may have shaped me, but you can't define me. She shouted, her voice reverberating across the space. The shadows roared, swirling dangerously around her like a cyclone. She stepped forward, her eyes blazing with resolve. I will face what I've hidden. I will embrace my scars, my fears. She felt her brother's presence alongside her, a whisper of strength. Ragnar faltered, the shadows trembling. What are you doing? His tone shifted from aggression to something softer, almost frightened, and just as Cynthia felt an exhilaration flood her body, a surge of energy she never knew she possessed, a new shadow loomed large behind Ragnar. This one emanated a magnetic dread, drawing all light toward it until the shimmering barrier flickered perilously. What is this? Cynthia's heart sank, the realization heavy. The new darkness felt ancient, it was something she could neither see nor comprehend. Embrace it. The voice from the shadows beckoned with chilling ease. The walls around them seemed to constrict, ready to crush the uncertain resolve. She felt the weight of the world sitting squarely on her shoulders, an unbearable burden. She couldn't push through alone. Cynthia felt frantic. The darkness was gathering strength, trying to ensnare her again. What do I do? She cried, desperation creeping into her tone. This wasn't just about confronting Ragnar anymore, now she faced something far greater. What had she unleashed, and could she truly confront it? With panic flooding her senses, one question surfaced above the cacophony: could she withstand the shadows now rising within her? Cynthia's heart raced, each beat echoing louder than the menacing shadows swirling around her. The presence behind Ragnar loomed larger, its cold breath chilling her to the bone. It was deeper, darker, a mastery of despair that seemed to stretch into infinity. Her body trembled, caught between fight and flight, yet those words whispered at the fringes of her mind kept pulling her back. Embrace it. The echo taunted her, tempting her resolve. A familiar feeling of surrender danced at the edge of her awareness, a siren call that resonated with her pain. It beckoned her to accept weakness, to see the dark truths she had buried beneath layers of shallow bravado. She bit her lip, recalling moments where she had faltered, her fears clawing at her self-worth like a predator closing in on its prey. No! She exclaimed, her voice breaking the suffocating hold of despair momentarily. I want to let you consume me. But the darkness whispered back, seductive and laced with truth. You are nothing without me. You are flawed. Just a shadow of the person you pretend to be. Pretend? Her breaths came short as confusion filled the spaces left by her defiance. Remember the betrayal? The shadows hissed, shifting into a swirling visage of faces from her past friends turned foes, laughter turned to betrayal, hope twisted into despair. You think you escaped it? You've just buried it deep enough that it still festers. No. She squeezed her brother's hand tighter, channeling every ounce of love and resilience he had ever given her. These are not my only truths. With renewed vigor, she faced Ragnar and the looming dread, pushing through the suffocating blanket of darkness. Each step felt monumental, fueled by memories that bolstered her spirit, her brother's laughter, the warmth of their bond, the dreams they had sketched together against the bleak canvas of their childhood. Look at me! She screamed, voice breaking the thick air. I am not just what you shaped. I am love, I am strength, I am hope. The shadows around her writhed as if struck by lightning. A wave of warmth began to spread from her core, growing brighter and brighter, illuminating the void. Ragnar staggered back, eyes wide with disbelief, his own shadowy figure faltering at the edges of her light. But then a pit of darkness surged toward her, a force filled with an age-old darkness that seemed to pierce through her protective glow. You dare defy the truth? This voice, deep, ancient, seemed to stretch beyond time itself. Every syllable dripped with a power that made her bones ache. I defy nothing. I just choose to stand. Desperation danced on her voice, but it was laced with fury. She had every right to exist, even in the face of this consuming terror. She reached deep inside herself and found the flicker of light again, letting it explode with her will. But the darker shadow wasn't done. It surged forward, colliding with her barrier, and a chilling wind swept through them. You are not as strong as you think, Cynthia. Her brother stepped forward, fierce and protective. Together, we are stronger than your darkness. With his support fueling her, she felt the light pulse fiercely, creating a shield around them both. But as the dark force collided with their defenses, cracks began to appear, a sign that the shadows were relentless and they wouldn't back down easily. Cynthia's chest tightened. She could feel her hold slipping, her light flickering dangerously. Was this their last stand? The darkness enveloped them both, a tightening noose of despair and fear. Embrace what lies within. But Cynthia knew she wasn't ready to give in. Not now. In that moment of peril, she made a decision. With one collective breath, she and her brother pushed against the shadows, ready to withstand whatever horrors lurked within. As darkness reached out, yearning to swallow them whole, an unexpected spark surged through her, a flicker of hidden power she had never acknowledged. What secrets did the shadows hold, and what kind of power did it awaken within her? Could she face the truths buried and rise anew? The shadows around Cynthia roared, their dark edges gnashing in agony against the brilliance of her heart. She could feel the weight of every fear, every memory thrust against her like a tidal wave, crashing into the stark walls of her resolve. The looming darkness, the embodiment of Ragnar's wrath and her own hidden past, seemed to shift violently, desperate to reclaim its hold, but she had crossed the threshold of fear, and there was no turning back. Together. Her brother cried, eyes fierce with determination. We can't let him win. The sound of his unwavering support surged through her like an electric jolt, igniting a flame that flickered, but didn't falter. You are the light in the shadows, Cynthia. Nothing can dim that. With his words echoing in her mind, Cynthia summoned every ounce of strength she had left. She felt the bonds of love and trust they shared wrap around her, forming a protective shield against the overwhelming darkness. The shadows writhed, pulling at her, but she pushed them back, refusing to let despair claim her heart. I will face you. She shouted, standing tall before the cacophony of Ragnar and his wills. I won't let you define me any longer. The air grew thick with tension as the abyss lunged closer, daring her to submit. Visions of her past, a kaleidoscope of pain, swirled around, but the light flickering within her heart began to expand, illuminating the hidden corners of her darkness. Each painful memory transformed into a thread of strength, weaving a tapestry of her truth, each thread shimmering with resilience. See how weak you truly are. Ragnar's voice boomed, the shadows convulsing beside him, fueling the chaos. For a split second, the doubt rose, whispering that perhaps he was right. But she remembered his laughter, dark yet humbling, and how it had always thrived on her fear. With a sudden clarity, she roared back, weakness is only in surrender. Taking a step forward, she grasped tightly to the memories that once haunted her, the betrayal that had hurt her deeply, choosing to utilize every scar as a stepping stone instead of shackling her to sorrow. The shadows recoiled, writhing with confusion, caught momentarily off guard by the power of her resolve. I see you now, Ragnar. She shouted, her voice ringing through the chaos around them. Your power is nothing but a lie popping under the weight of truth. I will not let you claim the darkness within me. Light exploded from her heart, a cascade of brilliance pushing back against Ragnar and the swirling vortex of shadows. The very air crackled with energy, reverberating in waves like an awakening storm. Cynthia's friends, united, raw, and vibrant, caught the momentum, clutching hands and drawing their strength from one another. They stood in solidarity, embodying the belief that darkness could not repress the light of love and connection. Ragnar hesitated, dread creeping into his fierce expression as the light swelled fiercely, unraveling the darkness that had entwined them. No. He roared, battling against the light, but it was futile. The shadows faltered as Cynthia's light surged even brighter, embodying every ounce of hope, every heartbeat, and every flicker of belief. With one final push, Cynthia called upon the spirit of unity that bound them. The past twisted and shattered the bitterness, the betrayal, each fragment spiraling into the light as confrontations metamorphosed into acceptance, leaving nothing behind but the freedom to rise anew. We are more than your shadows, she declared. Our legacy isn't bound by your darkness anymore. Then, with an eruption of blinding light, the darkness gave way, swallowed whole by the warmth that pulsed from all of them. A deafening crash echoed as the shadows began to dissipate, unraveling like smoke in the wind until all that was left was a faint flicker of Ragnar's defiance that he disappeared into an echo of laughter that echoed, distant and hollow, a reminder of the burdens she once carried but was now ready to cast away. As the ground beneath them softened and sunlight broke through the encroaching night, Cynthia collapsed to her knees, breathless. Her heart raced, but joy spilled within her, filling every crevice that had been once consumed by fear. "We did it!" her brother exclaimed, pulling her into a fierce embrace. The warmth enveloped her, and she felt the weight lifting, relief washing over her like the tide retreating to reveal the shores of a new beginning. Their friends, still connected, surrounded them with tears of joy, laughter mingling with disbelief and relief. "Together," she whispered, looking into their eyes, every one of them shining with renewed life. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden rays that melted away the last remnants of night, Cynthia felt a profound peace settle in her heart. The truth now lay bare before them all, not just a hidden past, but a promise of a shared tomorrow, brighter than any shadow that had once loomed over them. "Let us go home," she breathed out, feeling the weight of burdens shed and the possibility of healing on the horizon. And amid the branches where shadows once twisted, light flourished, free to explore the vast expanse of life unburdened by chains of the past. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any of the exciting stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Cynthia's incredible journey. And don't forget, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the power of light overcoming darkness. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Let's continue this journey of discovery together. Don't wait even one more second to share.